What is the Gophers' quickest path to getting ranked? And then we've got to talk about some bulletin board material for quarterback one, Athan Kaliakmanis.
Hey,
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota
Whatever
Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator, and recruiting assistant here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And today we are talking about the Locked On rankings. We've officially dropped our preseason top 25. Then we're going to talk about the Gophers' quickest path to being ranked. And then finally, we got to talk about Athan Kaliakmanis. He's got some bulletin board material on why he should absolutely ball out this upcoming season with some disrespect out there. But I'm excited. It is almost Gophers football time. I don't know if you can feel the energy turning, but it is almost here. That air is getting more to the fall, crisp air. And then it's almost time to watch the Friday night lights, Saturday night lights, and Sunday night football. Let's get it going. I am excited. I don't know if you are, but if you want all your Gophers content nonstop every single day, we're rowing with you every single day over here at Locked On Golden Gophers. So be sure to subscribe over on YouTube. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. That'll be a good time this season. It's going to be a fun one. And I got some fun folks that are going to be joining us on the show. We've got Tristan Spanford coming back for predictions every single week again, and it is going to be something you will not want to miss. But let's talk about the Golden Gophers. Let's talk about what the easiest path to getting ranked is for the Gophers coming up in this upcoming season. Now, when you look at the Gophers schedule, you're talking about games like Nebraska kicks it off. Nebraska, if the Gophers have any shot at getting ranked quickly, you have to win game one. That's priority numero uno. If you drop game one, it's going to be hard to garner respect until you get to the very late stages of the season. So if the Gophers want any inkling of being ranked early in this season, maybe within the first 5-6 games, they have to win game number one. Now, the Gophers' schedule should help them in their case for trying to get ranked early as long as you win 2 games. 2 games, and you can probably see yourself in the rankings within the first 5. So the Gophers have Nebraska at home. I do think that they will hold an advantage there, but I do think some Gophers fans are thinking it's going to be a blowout. The last 2 or 3 times we've played Nebraska, it has been a single touchdown game. So don't get ahead of ourselves. Don't underestimate the opponent. I think Nebraska is going to bring the heat, and they're going to be wanting to set the tone and show the new era is here for Nebraska football as well. So you can't overlook them, but I think the Gophers defense has what it takes to stymie that Nebraska team. Now, one thing I listened to on the Big Ten Network recently as they did their breakdown for their fall camp visit with Nebraska is that Coach Rule, and when they were hiring Coach Rule, they really want him to bring that Temple-style offense to Nebraska. Now, his Temple-style offense was far different than what we saw with Baylor, and I thought maybe he would take a combination of the two, and he probably still will. But the stress was they wanted that Temple-style football. Well, the Temple-style football is a lot of 2 tight end sets. It's a lot of ground and pound, inside-outside zones. It's a lot of running the ball. They've got Anthony Grant. They've got the backs to do it. Jeff Sims can get it done on the ground as well. Big-time arm from him. But we'll see how those elements come across. Now, maybe he was putting that out there hoping Coach Fleck and others would read into that a little more than they should and stress for that so that way he can try to pick it apart in the air game. But regardless, we know that Coach Fleck, Coach Rossi, they're going to be ready and in tow for that game. But it all starts with the quickest way to get ranked. You have to beat Nebraska. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Then you head on to week 2. You're at home again, playing Eastern Michigan. Obviously, you have to win that game, and you'll be heavily favored. That should be an auto win on the Gophers schedule. Now, yes, they won 9 games last year, but they've been struggling against Power 5 opponents. You can check that out in our opponent breakdowns. We did one for every single team on the schedule to learn more about them. But Eastern Michigan should be a dub. Then you head to Chapel Hill on the road. And you know what? They're going to be touted. If Chapel Hill, UNC, if they get it that week 1 victory versus South Carolina on a college game day where the media is there, where everyone's hyping it up. Everyone's already talking about Drake May. Oh, this guy that, Drake May, he's such a darling. That's going to happen. If they pull out the win, it only helps the Gophers heading into week 3, because if you take down a ranked North Carolina team in week 3 at their territory, we could be looking at the Gophers potentially getting ranked after that week 3 matchup if everything goes accordingly. If you beat Nebraska handily, we'll say maybe 10 points. If you can beat Nebraska by 10 points and make it convincing, even if it's 7 points, as long as it's convincing, maybe Nebraska is having to come back and try to get a shot, but it's convincing win for the Gophers, then you absolutely dismantle Eastern Michigan, which you're going to need to do to put yourself on the edge of ranking and get some respect factor. And then you go to Chapel Hill, taking on this quarterback darling that is everybody's Heisman candidate and all that stuff. You can put your name into that conversation, especially if you can beat them in a convincing victory. Maybe not a last-second victory, but regardless, you take down that team that would likely be ranked if they beat South Carolina with the game day eyes watching. I think that's the quickest path for the Gophers to being ranked. But let's say you drop that game. Let's say you drop North Carolina. When's the next opportunity for the Gophers to get ranked? Well, you got to win the next 2 in Northwestern and Louisiana. Now, both of those should be victories for the Gophers. So then you're heading into a game versus Michigan at home, 4-1. 4-1 is not bad. It maybe puts you on the cusp, but if you take down Michigan, I'm telling you right now, you're in the rankings. No ifs, ands, or buts. But I don't think a lot of people are expecting that, and a lot of people are counting that as an auto loss. So let's just go with what people are counting it as for now. So you say the Gophers are 4-2. 4-2 is going to be hard to get yourself back into the rankings unless you go into Kinnick, the next game you play, and you beat Iowa. You beat Iowa, you go 5-2. Iowa could be ranked at that point. That means you're definitely going to be in the conversation. I think that's how you can maybe get ranked again if those first 2 don't work out. But the biggest thing is if the Gophers can start this season 5-0, they beat a North Carolina that's potentially ranked. They beat Nebraska, who looks like a good opponent to be playing. And then even if you lose to Michigan, you can keep that ranking with a loss by beating an Iowa team. If you beat that Iowa team, you're probably looking at being ranked all the way through up until your Ohio State game, as long as you're not dropping any stupid games. So there are opportunities for the Gophers to find success. Now, I've been listening to some other podcasts out there. I've been listening to some other analysts out there. A lot of hate, a lot of skepticism on the Gophers, and it's mainly coming from them not trusting the quarterback, them thinking we lost too much in the production that we've had. And we did lose a lot of production, but that's acting like the Gophers haven't been recruiting and haven't been proving that they can develop their players regardless of their stars, regardless of their rankings. They're finding the right players to fit the system, both in the transfer portal, where they've had a huge success rate in the guys they bring in to contribute, and then also from their development of their young guys. Maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 3 years, but the development that has been coming along in the PJ Fleck era here with the Gophers has been successful over these years, and the record has spoken for it over the years. Now, even though the record is spoken for it, we've seen 9+ wins in the past 3 full seasons. There's still been some letdown because there are games they should have won in that case. You tell me we beat Bowling Green 2 years ago and we beat Purdue last year, you're looking at 3 double-digit win seasons, and maybe the light on the Gophers is looking completely different. So I wouldn't doubt this team. That 7-win line is fair due to the schedule, but if things click, they can get above that line. I've seen people talk about, oh, this could be a 4-win team or a 5-win team. I doubt it. I absolutely doubt it. This will be a bowl-eligible team. I have no doubts about that whatsoever. And go ahead, bookmark this and write it down. Put this in Kane's face if they aren't a bowl-eligible team, because I guarantee you they'll be a bowl-eligible team. Barring some catastrophic injuries, this Gophers team is too talented not to get to a bowl game in the 23 season, even with a challenging schedule. So we've talked about the different ways that they can get ranked in this year. Now we'll see how it plays out and if it can come to fruition. But what I want to talk about next is the top 25 for Locked On. We did a preseason top 25, and we're going to talk about who made that list where my votes went in the poll and the differences that we have in there coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at FanDuel because football season is almost here and FanDuel has a fantastic promotion going on to kick off the football season. FanDuel is giving you a chance to win all season long, not just the one time, all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, so you choose your Chiefs, you choose your Vikings, you choose your Packers, you choose your whoever you think is going to win the Super Bowl. If I had to take a gut shot right now, I think the Eagles are going to be hungry. But you choose whoever you think will win the Super Bowl, and you get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Every single time they get a win, you get bonus bets. Who doesn't like free money, free opportunities for bonus bets? Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl and you get bonus bets for every victory. And you can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. All right, Gophers fans, if you are just tuning in for the first time on Locked On Golden Gophers, I welcome you. If you're an everydayer that's been riding with us since last season where we really took this thing off, I appreciate you. And you know when Tristan Spanford is on the show with us, it is a riot. You're not going to want to miss it. So be sure to hit subscribe over on YouTube. Follow wherever you get the podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, you name it. And if you ever want to hear more insights, more in-depth, more questions on certain topics, send them in a DM to us over on Twitter. Send them to our email at lockedongoldengophers@gmail.com. I want to make sure you're getting the content you want to hear. Now, starting next week, we are kicking off with some deep dives on the positional groups. We'll talk about a storyline with each position group. We'll break down what the depth chart is maybe looking like for the position group, and then we'll talk about where they rank in the Big Ten. So you're not going to want to miss it. Hit subscribe over on YouTube. But let's talk about this Locked On Top 25 because it is here. And I had a part in this. I voted in it. It didn't go exactly how I voted, but let's throw it up there. So, all right. So if you are over on YouTube, you can see that Locked On Top 25 poll, the preseason edition as voted on by Locked On College hosts. And you'll see the top 25 right there. Now you can see for this year, not the expanded realigned conferences, but for this year's Big Ten, you can see 5 Big Ten teams made the top 25 for the Locked On hosts. That includes Michigan at 2, Ohio State at 3, Wisconsin at 20, and Iowa at 24. Now, personally, I had 3 teams that weren't on this poll, and 3 teams from this poll were not on it. 3 of the teams that didn't make it for me were Wisconsin, Texas Tech, and Texas A&M. I need to see more from all those schools before I can just put them into this top 25. Now, that's not saying they haven't made some changes that could be good for the upcoming season. That's not saying that they didn't get some key transfers in. I just need to see it before I can assume. Iowa for me is a little bit different. Iowa would be my pick to win the conference. I'm going to talk about that on Twitter this weekend. I'll drop my actual official predictions, and we'll talk about it maybe a little bit next week. But as far as predictions go, I have Iowa winning the conference, or the division right now. And I think it's because they have so much stability on the defense and special teams, and then they still have the same offensive coordinator. Now, could that be to their detriment? Absolutely. But they've got some key players coming in that maybe can hide some of his flaws and take advantage of some of the bad positions he puts them in anyway. Regardless, when you're looking at this schedule and it comes to the Gophers, you will see multiple top 25 opponents are on the Gophers schedule, including number 2 Michigan, number 3 Ohio State, number 17 North Carolina, number 20 Wisconsin, and number 24 Iowa. So you're talking about 5 games on the Gophers schedule this upcoming season are top 25 opponents. You can see why it is ranked as one of the hardest schedules in the country. The Gophers are going to have a lot of question marks around them. This is why maybe people have some doubts in them. But the thing is, it also has the opportunity to make some noise. You take down your 2 rivals that you are usually in the game down to the wire with. You take those 2 down. You take North Carolina down. You've already beat 3 ranked opponents at that point, and you have 2 opportunities to take down a potential top 5 school. Now, people will sleep on it, but I don't know if you've been out here watching this Johnny Manziel documentary that's on Netflix, but what did the people think about Texas A&M playing Alabama? That it was going to be a routing, that they were going to get destroyed. And then all of a sudden, Manziel made some Manziel magic happen, and all of a sudden they're upsetting Bama, and things are going crazy for that team down there in Texas. So never say never is what I always got to say there. There are opportunities. There are ways that those teams can be upset. So that's why the Gophers are talking about the schedule being opportunistic and a challenge as opposed to tough and difficult and a struggle. So that's what the Locked On Top 25 is looking like right now. Like I said, the Gophers, any chance to get into this top 25, they're going to have to beat their first five opponents. You get that done, I think you can sneak into the back half here, and then everything from there, you got to keep winning to keep yourself in the conversation. Maybe drop one game to Michigan. If that happens, you can still find a way to keep your name in this top 25, but it is not impossible. So let me know in the comments below what you think with our Locked On Top 25 poll, who you would shift around, who wouldn't be in there, who would, and the thoughts on that. The different teams that I had in the top 25, I had Tulane in there. They were absolutely balling last year, and I think they're going to have some success this year. I had UTSA, which I think is going to be a sneaky team. I think I had them at 25, so I had them right on the edge. And then I can't remember off the top of my head the third different school I had, but it was close. Otherwise, the rest of this is pretty lock and step with what I was seeing. I had FSU as the number 3 school in the country. I'm a little high on Florida State, but we'll see if I'm right or wrong there. But I want to talk about some disrespect that happened over these last couple days. I want to talk about bulletin board material that Athan Kaliakmanis has going into the 2023 season, and he should absolutely be ready to prove it wrong. We're going to talk about that coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Birddogs, and look, they got you settled with comfort, with versatility, and shorts that you just will not want to take off. They fit way better than regular shorts, and they're not made of that stiff cotton material. They're made of a cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches, and it's way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice for the movement. You know, you want to move and groove and keep it going. You want to get that swing going while you're out there on the course. They got you covered with these Birddogs. You're definitely going to want to get you a pair. I have 3 pairs, and I even got myself some joggers. I had to get it done. They're so comfortable. Once I tried them on once and wore them out and about, I knew I was hooked and locked. So head on over to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege, and you can take advantage of a free gift that you will get with every purchase. You go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege, and they're going to give you a free white tech hat with the Birddogs logo on it. It's slick, it's nice, and it fits great. So I encourage you to head on over to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege, get you a pair of some shorts, wear them around, and as soon as you try it on once, I am betting you are going to get more pairs. It's worth the price over at birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. All right, Gophers fans, we're wrapping this one up with some Athan Kaliakmanis talk. He's got some bulletin board material heading into the 2023 season because Clint Brewster over at 247 ranked him as the 67th, roll my eyes, out of 69 Power 5 quarterbacks. Now, some folks might be like, well, he hasn't proven anything. He hasn't done it yet. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying that he still has things to prove, but I'm saying this list is a little wonky to have him at 67th out of 69. I would probably have him somewhere in the 50s, but ready to move up if he can produce and show that high upside. Now, we're talking about an article written by Clint Brewster, who is the son of Tim Brewster, who was a former Gophers coach, who that family has a little bit of disdain coming for the Gophers program. So it started to make sense a little bit why it was so low, but his defense, when I kind of called it out and said it was disrespectful, he said that Athan had 54% completion rate, 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. But that's exactly why you can't just look and focus on the box scores when you do these things, because that has zero context behind it. We're talking about that's not explaining that the coaches were not allowing him to throw the ball much. Then on top of that, we're not talking about how all 4 of those interceptions came against top 15 defenses, against Iowa, Illinois, and Penn State. 2 of those were top 3 defenses in the entire country of 131 teams. It's not bringing that context up. Or how 2 of those interceptions were against that Illinois team that was in the top 3 in the entire country in garbage time, where one wide receiver literally gave up on the play and got reamed out by a coach as he was heading to the sidelines, which caused the interception because he just gave up, and the other one where a wide receiver fell down. That's not the context that you're giving. In fact, you don't get the context of in his 6 significant games of playing time from Penn State on, he had 862 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 165 rushing yards. It doesn't bring into the fact that in his final 2 starts, prior to his injury in the bowl game, he was passing 399 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an 86 completion percentage, had 2 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays, and was getting the ball out of his hands the quickest that he had all season. Things were headed in the right direction as the training wheels were coming off. So we need a little bit of context when it comes to that. But if you want to be like, no, the stats were bad, so that's where he should be. All right, let's take the stats reason, the garbage stats reason. You look at that list, Dexter Williams, Indiana quarterback, 34 completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, was rated 63rd, aka 4 slots higher than Athan Kaliakmanis. He hasn't even been named a starter. Most people think Taven Jackson is going to be the starter. So big question mark there. Gavin Wimsatt, 44%, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 66 right in front of Athan. How? Robbie Ashford with Auburn, because it's Auburn, because it's SEC. 49%, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, ranked 51st. That's 51st, but the things that we saw with Athan Kaliakmanis puts him at 67th. That's a huge jump if you ask me. And then you got Rocco Brecht, Iowa State quarterback, who's only played in some garbage time, 46% completion, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's ranked 57th. That's probably around the area that Athan Kaliakmanis should have finished. But Rocco Brecht, who again might not start. I don't know. If you really want to get into it, on top of that, you've got players that have maybe played 8 snaps, like Sam Jackson, who transferred to Cal from TCU, 6 total attempts. He came in at 52nd. Jalen Monroe, who isn't necessarily the starter for Bama, they still have a 3 quarterback battle, 46th. Alan Bowman has never played a single snap in college football as a senior, 60th on the list. I could keep going. Noah Kim, Ari Patu, Ethan Garbers, those guys haven't been named starters, but somehow they're projected to do better than a guy who was locked in as a starter, showed flashes of potential, and that in itself is bulletin board material for Athan Kaliakmanis. I'm not saying he should be in the top 30 right now. I'm not even saying he should be in the top 40 right now, but the list was disrespectful, and I look forward to the talent that I've seen Athan show for 2 straight fall camps now to come out on the field, for him to get into his groove, as we saw late in the season last year, improve this list absolutely wrong. I think he's going to ball out. There will be some bumps in the road. I'm sure there'll be some turnovers in the road, but Athan Kaliakmanis is going to prove a lot of people in the nation wrong, and I am going to sit back and enjoy every second of it. That's going to do it for us here at Locked On Golden Gophers today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about Big Ten basketball and how it shifts with the landscape and the changes and the additions of Oregon and Washington. We'll talk both men's and women's tomorrow. I'll see you then. Roll the boat, Sky Umago Gophers, and all that stuff. And don't forget to subscribe.